तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So last time we saw the nature of the cause of the universe, and in order to arrive at the nature of the cause of the universe, we looked at any intelligent creation requires two types of causes, right? One is what we call material cause and the other one is the efficient cause. Efficient cause in Sanskrit is called nimitta karanam, and material cause is called upadana karanam. Okay? So, for example, to create this watch, which is an intelligent creation, it requires what? The watchmaker, and it also requires the material. And we saw, I will not go into the whole logic because we've already seen it. Then we saw that in this case, the watchmaker uses the material which is other than the maker to make the watch. But when it comes to the creation, time is yet to come, space is yet to come, every object is yet to come. So the maker of this whole universe, which is the material that maker used to make the creation. So the only logical answer is that even the material cause is the maker in the case of the in case of the creation. Okay. So the implication of that is very big, because if the watchmaker can be away from the watch, but the material from which the watch is made, can it ever be away from the watch? No. Since it can never be away from the watch, if Ishvara is the material cause of the creation, where will you find it? Everywhere, right? So this is something that you have to understand, that any question which is asked from the standpoint of Ishvara, why does he do this to us? That very question has a wrong basis, because that presumes that Ishvara is one entity and we are somebody else, and there is this big uncle who has all these powers and he has all these knowledge and he's abusing us or he's making us miserable. So this particular premise itself is wrong. The Vedic vision of Ishvara is something, the whole manifestation is nothing but Ishvara. Okay? So it is not the entire, that's why we see only one, we don't see many. But that one, when it manifests as many, it is just randomly manifesting? No. There are certain laws that govern the whole manifestation. Okay? So that means if you are smart, what would you try to understand? All the different laws. And then what would you do? Try to navigate your life in keeping with those laws so that you don't hurt yourself. If you are ignorant of those laws, okay, Ishvara is everywhere. But in your buddhi, you can miss the presence of Ishvara all your life. Okay? So that means there is a veil of ignorance. So this is why you need the teaching which removes that veil, which makes you see something which is already present. Okay? So this is where you understand that all that is here is Ishvara, and Ishvara is in a way organizing the universe through cause and effect relationship. Everything that you see here is connected to certain cause and effect relationship for how long? When do these laws begin? Along with the creation comes the laws. Okay? So that means the time period that we have in mind, which is how we see things, which is only this much. But the creation has been how long? Billions and billions of years. And those laws operate for billions and billions of years. So anything that you watch from a given standpoint may look a little bit skewed from your awareness standpoint, but from the standpoint of the order, it is not. Right? We saw last time the implication of this is something very big, that there is the order of what? The laws of gravity. If you say, oh, I don't care, I don't physically see any law of gravity, so let me just go out there and start walking. What will happen? You will fall. Okay? When you fall, can you say, oh, Ishvara is very cruel, because if there is Ishvara, why do we have why do I have this fractured leg? Ishvara, you have to re-understand what you mean by Ishvara. Because your idea of Ishvara is not what Ishvara is. So Ishvara is in form of this knowledge and all power, which has the capacity to manifest in form of the whole universe through series of laws. And everything is governed by those laws. And one must recognize the fact, the same laws which place the sun with reference to the earth, and the precision with which all the work is being done through the sun to make human life possible through billions of years, the same laws apply with reference to us, human beings. So you need not take on the burden of fixing the world, because the world is already run through infallible laws. But within those laws, you have a free will. And that free will, how will you use? To contribute. Because the world is organized in a way that there is interdependence. Each thing is connected to the other, and what others do affects me, and what I do affects the others. Once I recognize that, instead of trying to fix the world and blame others, where would my focus be? What can I do? Because I'm a participant in what? Shaping the universe. With my skills, with my abilities, with my roles, I can do many things. The minute the focus comes on yourself and your proactive role, what happens? Life becomes very meaningful, because you have a certain goal and you work and you apply yourself to achieve something that you believe in. When that takes place, all the bitterness and anger and all this feeling of victim and feeling of injustice, it all goes. That is really what we say, offloading yourself with all the burden born of your knowledge of what is Ishvara. Okay? Otherwise you can say, what difference does it make to my life whether Ishvara is up there or Ishvara is all pervading? It makes a huge difference. Okay? It makes the difference. This morning I gave a talk that it makes a difference in three very important ways. Okay? One is, generally every human being feels isolated. I'm this little individual who is confronting the world. Now, what do you understand? That there is one whole system and you're one part of that whole system. Okay? It's like playing this symphony. In that symphony, each artist has a given role. Even though one person is playing violin for that given fraction of 1 minute, that creates a harmony. Each one has a different role. Everybody cannot be playing only one instrument. Everybody cannot be playing for the same amount of time. Okay? But the way the whole system is, each one has its own role to play. And this is how the whole harmony is created.
And it also means that you are taken care of.
And then you are taken care of. So that means you then have to focus on your actions, because the musician understands that he's not alone fighting everyone. He is actually part of that whole system. So you have to use your free will to do your part, rather than compare yourself with that person, or why this person is first and why am I at the back. So that kind of a thing, the world arranging equally, this equality, the idea that we have doesn't exist.
And you're important. No?
Exactly. Everybody thinks that one is important. And if you think you're important, then what? Your whole mindset changes. Because you use your energy to make the contribution that is necessary.
Then rather feeling worthless. and
Exactly.
negative.
Worthless or exactly. Right? So this is something which is from isolation to connection. This is the implication of understanding the presence of Ishvara in form of laws everywhere. The second thing is that from the dissatisfaction to gratitude. Why? Because the constantly all the forces are at work to provide for you. The sun does not complain that how much of my self I have to give up. Okay? It constantly converts helium to hydrogen in order to provide us life. It doesn't complain that I'm constantly doing this and people just take me for granted, they don't even look at me. He's just doing his job, its job, because this is how the universe is set up.
100,000 ton of its own mass
It gives
per
us
second it's giving you
100,000.
1,000 tons of its own mass the sun is giving.
Hmm.
This is the generosity of the sun.
And the sun is a very easy example to give.
Yeah.
Even in counseling, when people are depressed or they have any problem, you can tell them that the sun rises every morning, no matter what.
Yeah.
So that no matter which religion, everybody connects.
Yeah,
There's a religion
absolutely.
issue also comes. This takes care of everything.
Yeah. So this is where you begin to see that already forces are at work. The water provides you with all the nourishment. This is something that all the forces at work, they are very benevolent to you. They make your life possible and they are constantly sustaining you. Don't complain about the world. Okay? So there comes the gratitude and this whole mental thing of being dissatisfied. Otherwise what happens? Everything that we have, we take it for granted. We don't even have any sense of recognition of the fact that how many forces are at work to make our life possible and for us to achieve everything that we have achieved so far. But one thing doesn't work according to our wishes and we are completely caught by that and we create one whole world view based on that one thing which does not work for us. Okay? That psyche has to change. One has to, give up this resentment, dissatisfaction and work from the gratitude. The more gratitude you have, your psyche changes. You will see people will change towards you. Because you don't, it's not just something that this entitlement, the sense of entitlement that we feel, that we have, it's not something, in fact, nobody has to work for you, but they all work for you. And that one has to be thankful. Okay? So there is a shift in the psyche from dissatisfaction to gratitude. The third major shift, when you understand the presence of Ishvara in and through everything, is you shift from being a consumer to a contributor. Because the world is, even if you feel that, okay, now I want to minimize my requirements. Okay? I want to live a very simple living. I don't want to have these fancy cars and I just want a simple home and simple meal and simple. Even in that simplicity, just the fact that I'm drinking this glass of water, how many people have worked to make it possible for me? Simple thing, the simplest thing. Forget about Coke, I want to give up Coke, I want to give up juices, I just want to drink water. Even in that act of drinking water, how many people? How many people have worked? Countless. And you are using this water how many times a day? A simple meal you want to eat. Just dal, roti, chawal. Simple. How many people? Countless people have contributed. The world is set up in a way that you always will be what? Consumer. And in fact, you will always consume a lot more than what you will contribute. And now, what is our whole thing? how to consume more and more and more and more. And this mindless consumption, what it has done? Depleted resources. Our posterity is at risk because we just don't think about anything. We just are so self-centered and maximizing our so-called well-being through more and more consumption, and that we don't even stop and think that is that consumption really giving me the satisfaction that I'm looking for? Okay. Our whole mindset is something which is, completely self-centered and totally disregarding how is our action or how are we contributing anything back to this whole system from which we are taking so much. So this is something that the minute you focus and you can say that now enough, of course I have to, the world is set up in a way that I will always consume. Okay? But now I have to shift to be a contributor. Imagine what would be the life like when each one wants to be a contributor. Rather than saying, I want to grab this and I want to grab this and I'm very dissatisfied that I still don't have this, to saying, what can I do? What can I do? Okay? And that is a very major shift. Our sometimes, in Bangkok, I gave a talk. And they said, some teenagers, they feel very inspired by the talk and they come to us and they said, yeah, I really want to be a contributor, but I don't quite know what I should do. Right? I have no idea now. I'm all very inspired, but what I should do. So this is where one simple thing, you don't have to have this, you don't need to take the whole burden of work on your shoulder and then become a contributor. I said, you are already placed in the grand scheme of things when you are playing many different roles. Already. Okay? You are playing different roles where with reference to your parents, you are playing a role of a child. With reference to your own children, you are playing the role of a parent. With reference to your employers, you are playing the role of your employee. With reference to the community, you are a citizen. With reference to the world, you are what? A global citizen. So that means you are already placed in different roles, and each of these roles has, where do you have the biggest sphere of influence? Where do you have the biggest, as a world citizen, you want to change the whole order of the world. Can you change all the order of the world overnight? No. Right? So therefore, then your sphere of influence is relatively less. But does it mean that it is zero? No. Simple thing. What can you do to contribute to the well-being of the world?
Do your duty.
Sorry?
Do your duty.
Do your duty, exactly. Simple thing like, when I was, I just got married to Surya, and one day I was brushing my teeth and, the water was running. So he came and he turned off the tap and he says, so much water is flowing and you are just kind of wasting it away. So he said, be a little bit mindful, and simple things like that. How much water, then I thought about it, how much water I would have just wasted totally mindlessly. Electricity we keep on, and it is just kind of, every small action is what? Going towards the overall ecology. Don't think that if everybody thinks that my actions are insignificant, then what will happen? Nothing will get accomplished. But if everybody does what they have to do, then what happens? Things will get accomplished. There is a very nice little story that I want to give. I want to tell because it's a very significant story, that in a village there was a drought and people did not have enough food to eat. There were some people who were starving, and so they all met and they said, now how to solve this problem, because there are people who are starving and they don't have enough. So there were some rich people in the village, but they did not have the capacity to feed all the people who were starving. Okay. So one wise person comes and says, nobody has to really take such a huge burden of feeding so many people who are starving. But we can do one thing, that when you are cooking, just take one little piece of rice and you put it. Okay? Put it in a common place, and then whatever comes in that common place, that can feed. Okay? So everybody thought that there was not much of a burden in that. They just took a little bit of rice and they put it. And they started putting it. Over a period of time, what happened? There was a heap of rice which fed everyone. But did one person take on the burden? Imagine if each one thought that, well, why should I do it? Let others do it. Would that have been accomplished? No. One has to do one's part, and then order will take care. Okay? That amount of proactiveness, when it comes, you become a person who is not just complaining about order of things, but what? Proactive about what can I do? What can I do in my little capacity to, in whichever way, recognizing my sphere of influence, my sphere of influence can change over a period of time. Obama, when he was just a teenager, he had a very different sphere of influence than when he's playing role of a president. So that means your sphere of influence is something which is not static, it's constantly moving. Okay? And the more you do, the more the order uses you to get things done. It is amazing. Please don't think that you are living in a world which is all dead. This is where you have to change. When we say Ishvara is in it through everything, it is not that whole premise that everything is unfair. That has to change. There is this amazing intelligence which is running the whole universe. Don't be blind to that intelligence. It is at work. Constantly it is at work. Making the genius of your eyes see it. That intelligence is at work. Okay. The capacity of these billions of cells to coordinate right now so that I can talk, my digestive system works, my respiratory system works, my circulatory system works, I can hear, I can do multiple things all at the same time where billions of cells are coordinating. That is an amazing intelligence. That is at work for everyone at every point in time. Nobody can be away from that Ishvara. And within that, I have to be proactive. Okay? So it changes me in a very fundamental way from what? An isolated being into a connected being. The second is from dissatisfaction to gratitude, and the third is from consumer to a contributor. So, these, what we learn from Gita is not ordinary. Okay? It's not something which is telling you, be like this and be like that. It is showing you a very big picture. And when you shift that, your understanding of things, all these things automatically happen. Because if you don't change your bigger picture, then what happens? You're still a struggling person trying to acquire a few values here and there, but you don't understand what exactly. And that's why many people who are highly ethical can be highly dissatisfied. They said, oh, goodness doesn't pay. Many people say that. Or bad people always get away. These are one's opinions based on that little data that one has seen, but these are not the truths. So this is where it shifts, that shifting of the vision has to take place. Otherwise, one thing is you learn Gita and you can understand, okay, Ishvara is material and efficient cause, because in no other way it is possible. But on the other hand, you continue to have ideas of what the world is unfair. Okay? So that means you have not assimilated the knowledge.
When you say order uses you, like you said that instead of complaining when you do whatever is there in your sphere of influence,
Yes.
order uses you. Like, you
Yeah,
get
and
involved.
many things get done through you.
So then you're also saying that you have to do your duty first
Yes,
to yourself.
absolutely. To
Then
yourself
only
and
you
to
can go to the
everyone.
next.
You have to also, because you play many different roles, so you have duties towards all the different people and different roles that you
So
play.
the order doesn't use you in a bigger way till you do that, right?
So that means you have to start, you have to
So you
first
have to, you can't
recognize.
skip that.
You
right?
can't skip that.
So then it's, why I'm asking is that normally we feel sometimes guilty.
Yeah,
You know, we are playing roles. But
Yes.
sometimes we are not able to give attention
yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah.
And you may not cheat, but you may give less attention. You're
Yes.
focusing more outside, giving the reason that I am contributing.
yes.
But you have to do that first.
Yeah.
You can't jump.
Okay, now that is a very good question. That sometimes when you are doing bigger things, your smaller roles
Yeah.
get sacrificed.
Yes.
Okay, and there are some very interesting examples of one major example is, for example, when Gandhiji was running this whole Swadeshi campaign. Okay? So that means he was asking everybody to abandon what? Foreign goods, foreign services, because he knew that the only way to fight the British is to break what? Their economy. They were earning so much money from in India. So basically, if there is a ban on foreign goods and foreign services, or going abroad and studying and all that, then that would really make a major dent in British Empire. At this time, his son wanted to go abroad and become a lawyer, okay? And he really wanted to go. So now, here there is a conflict in the role, because he has a very big vision in mind that he wants freedom for India, and for that he's asking the whole nation to abandon foreign goods. But now, here his own son wants to go to England and become a barrister, like his own father,
Yeah.
right? He himself
Which
was
is
right?
supposed to be a good
So
thing.
now, exactly, and then he has
That
to.
is a kind of a debate which is still going on.
Yeah, exactly. Because then he said, if I'm telling the whole nation to abandon this, what credibility I would have if I let my own son go to England and study? So he had to put his foot down and said, no, you can't do it because it's too critical for the whole country. And what happened? The son suffered a lot, right?
Yeah.
So now, he had a difficult life after that. Okay? So now, what is the lesson here? That sometimes when you are playing a bigger role, some other roles get what? Neglected. Okay?
Suffers.
But, yeah, it suffers. But if you were an evolved, so this is a kind of a something you can always be better. So that means that we have a tendency, human being has a tendency to overlook some other roles and give more importance to some. So even though that bigger role is more important, it is true, because the whole nation and its independence is
More
at
people are
stake.
getting-
Okay? But he could have perhaps done something differently with reference to making the son see the value of why it is so important, rather
Yeah.
than just
Just-
making a rule, saying that you should not do this, right? So when he himself had seen the value, then probably he could have avoided this outcome. Okay, so this is something that this is a very good point, that we have to always, because when we play different roles, at times the roles are in conflict with each other, and how to balance it is something which is very necessary. What we end up doing is paying very lot of attention to one role and neglecting the other. But that is not, and this is why, in fact, we saw this play Einstein, and he was saying, he himself has regrets, right? He says that I was so immersed in my physics and my equations and all, and my wife was dying, and I didn't even go and see her. Yeah. So that means that on one hand, he is a genius. To accomplish what he accomplished, he had to be immersed. But at what cost? And he himself was then feeling that. And in our own little way, that happens, career women, career men, that how much attention do we actually pay, to our kids and all that, so balancing our roles is something which is very, very important, because each role that I play it has a very big impact on how the world is going to be.
But I have a question. You cannot solve this problem. It will be either one or the other. It is a zero-sum game.
See, the thing is, you cannot, there is no such thing called perfect solution,
Yes.
but you can always do better.
You can do better.
Yeah, that's all. So
Improve
that's
the
all
balance.
is required. Because there is, in fact, in reality, there is no perfection in this world, because the whole world is only mithya. The perfection is only at the level of the truth, which is untouched by what is there in mithya. And this constant search for perfection that we have, that perfection at the level of empirical world, you will never find it.
It's not.
It is not possible. And still the search is there. So the only solution is
Get better.
you understand the truth of yourself, which is what? Not subject to this relativity.
And it's a TV serial, but just after your Gita class, Shankar Bhagavan is telling this girl,
Ah,
the truth is eternal,
Yeah.
but it's just at which angle you are standing and watching it.
yeah.
So that was very connective after your last class. Right, so
Yeah, okay. So now, coming back to this whole thing about avatara, given this fact that everything is a manifestation of Ishvara, then what is avatara? Okay. So as I said, everything manifests not just randomly, but because of what? Certain laws. So a human being comes into being with that given physical body, with that given mind, is because of what? Certain causes. Nothing in universe is random. Okay? So what are those causes? This is what we say. The causes are what your actions which are going to fructify in form of a result. Okay? And that is something which is, again, the actions that you have performed in the past are something that are going to produce a result, but while experiencing the result, you are also what? Performing actions. So nothing is something which is totally predetermined, because what you do today is going to impact what is going to be your future. Okay? So for your future, your present will become the cause. And the whole life is like that, because if you, in fact, you intuitively do understand this cause and effect relationship. Because every decision that you make and you say, I want to achieve this, and for achieving this, I'm going to do this. When you come up with this, have you understood cause and effect relationship or not?
yes.
Yes. Because if you say this is the end, this is what I should do, you understand the cause and effect relationship. In fact, all your decisions are made taking into account cause and effect relationship. Okay? So that means this physical body comes due to causes which are your own karma. And that karma itself is because of what? The ignorance, in fact, I think you missed that first part,
Yeah.
ignorance about your true nature. Because you think you are only this little individual. And as long as this individuality is real for you, then what? There are actions which are done for what? Finding freedom from unhappiness for you. And for those actions there are results. So that means for this whole karma to continue, there are two things. One is that there are unseen results which are in your account which will fructify at any given point in time, which is what we call prarabdha karma. The karma which have already started to give their results and which gives you what? What does prarabdha give you? Your parentage. Your parentage, your physical body. You haven't created your physical body. Okay? Certain inclinations. That means somebody has inclination for mathematics, somebody is an artist, somebody is a genius at architect. I mean, you have all people with so many different talents. All this programming, have you chosen 100%? Can anybody say that I have actually sat and I have said, okay, now my neurons should behave like this? How can you claim ownership to anything? You're a trustee. You're just given. You're given this body. And you're given this mind. The only thing you can do is to use it in the best possible manner to achieve what needs to be achieved. Okay? So that means ignorance and karma are something that give rise to this given body. But for avatara, is it the ignorance and karma which gives rise to that given body? No. Okay? Avatara is that all knowledge and all power which is in and through the whole creation gives rise to one given form, not as a result of ignorance and karma, but to accomplish something which cannot otherwise be accomplished. So there is a verse in the Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So this is something which is an avatara. When adharma is on a great rise and dharma is on a decline, there is such a distortion, right? How has that distortion taken place?
By the actions of different people.
Exactly, right? By actions of different people who are misguided by their own particular self-interest. Okay? So that means that then there is a huge imbalance, because you are doing that, I am doing that, this person is doing that, but majority are not following dharma. Then where is the effect seen? A cumulative effect of that is seen in the society, where there are number of distortions, and when the distortions become a norm, then somebody who is honest finds it difficult, right? And that is the time that generally we human beings ourselves, we can figure out how to undo those distortions. Sometimes this big crisis that happen, environmental crisis or financial crisis, they become a trigger point for people to question and do things differently. Okay, sometimes we ourselves can do it, but sometimes if the magnitude is so much that no human being can fix it, then this is what we say, avatara comes and fixes that distortion. Okay, so this is what he says. He claimed and he says that Lord Krishna, even though Ishvara is in and through everything, avatar Krishna in that given form is an avatara, has come to do a specific job of removing adharma and establishing dharma. Okay. Now, anybody who will then
This
say...
verse is from the Gita itself.
Yeah, it is from the Gita.
Which,
I think it is maybe third or fourth chapter.
Fourth.
Third or fourth chapter.
Third or fourth.
Huh?
Fourth.
Fourth chapter. Yeah. In fact, it is in the same, what I was explaining, that Ibam Vivasvate Yogam
Yes.
is that
Chapter 4.
fourth chapter.
Chapter
Because
4,
after
verse
that,
1,
after these two verses, he then goes on to show that, because Arjuna asks him, how is it that you taught Vivaswan and Manu and all?
Yeah.
So in response to that, he says it. So it's in fourth chapter. Okay. Now, there is another thing which you need to understand, that the whole purpose of Gita and Vedanta is not to make you see that there is this Ishvara, which is all knowledge, which is very big, and then who are you?
Insignificant.
Exactly. So, the ultimate purpose of Bhagavad Gita and of Upanishad is to see you, to make you see the fact that what? Tat Tvam Asi. Tat is Ishvara, Tvam is you, and then there is an equation. So, in the next verse, Lord Krishna is talking about that now don't think that I'm somebody big and you're this little insignificant entity. There is an identity. Okay, so that identity Arjuna is reminded of through this verse we will see. Okay. Here he says, Karmanya karmaya pashyet akarmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta krishna karma kruta. You will chant after me.
Yeah.
Karmanya karmaya pashyet akarmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta krishna karma kruta. So now here he is explaining the wise person. Saha buddhiman manusheshu. Okay, among people he is the buddhiman. Who is this person who is buddhiman? Karmani akarma yav pashyet. Okay, in karma he sees akarma, and in akarma he sees karma. So now that is something which requires a huge understanding. Okay, so that means the wise person sees karmani akarma. Okay, so he can be very busy, but where does he put his eye? Okay, if your eye is in the body and mind, then who are you? You are a doer who performs an action. And if you are performing an action, then there is a result which is accruing to you, and you are bound by these laws of karma. Okay. But now, in any given lifetime, you question this very assumption that I am this little individual, and you undertake an inquiry to find out what is your true nature. We already did it. What did we do? That this physical body, is it I, is it Druk, or is it Drishya? It is something that I objectify, it is not something which is I. Okay. The different conditions of the body I observe, my graying of hair, my gaining weight, whatever, all these, the capacity of my senses deteriorating, all these things are constantly changing. Who am I? Am I those changes, or I am the observer of those changes? I am the observer of those changes. And this body is nothing but cells. So if one cell is not I, many cells combined together, it does not become I. Okay? So therefore, in this life, I said, oh my God, all this time I have lived thinking that I am as good as this body. Now what I discover is the fact that this body is something which is not I. Okay. Now what about the mind? We saw that the mind is also not I, because mind is nothing but what? Many different thoughts. And each thoughts come and go. And who are you? Are you the thoughts, or are you the observer of the thoughts? So you are the observer of thoughts, so the thoughts are not you. So that means all the different statements that you have made about yourself, where you have equated I with the nature of the thought, are all what? Are the statements made out of ignorance of what the nature of I is. When I say I'm happy, or I'm sad, or I'm jealous, these are all what? Happy, sad, jealous, these are all what? States. These are all states of mind, and they are constantly changing. In fact, one thing logically, right, that sometimes if you are happy and sometimes you are unhappy, if you were intrinsically happy, you can never be unhappy. And if you were intrinsically unhappy, you will never be happy. So that means what? That comes and goes. You are who? Free from both. Because if one is intrinsically your nature, you can't have the other. But the very fact that you have sometimes this and sometimes that, and both are opposed to each other, means who are you? You are none of them. You are free from both. You are the observer, because of which all these varying states are known to you. Okay? So then, this mind is not you. So who are you then? So this is where we saw you are that existence which is Sat. You are Chit. Chit is the awareness because of which different conditions of the mind are known and different conditions of the physical body are known, and that Sat and Chit is something which is what? Anantam. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Okay. So that means, why is it Anantam? Because this awareness which is independent of the body and mind is something which is not confined to your body. Okay. Because your awareness, I'm awareness. Okay. But I'm already, this awareness is free from the body and mind, the conditions of body and mind. Your awareness is free from your conditions of your body and mind. Okay. So in that awareness, what attribute would you put which will make my awareness different from your awareness? The differences are at what level? At the level of body and at the level of mind. But in awareness, will you find any characteristic which will distinguish this awareness from the other awareness? So if one is looking for equality in this world, only at the level of awareness one finds total equality. Because that is one, untouched by anything that exists. Okay? So this awareness is something which is already free. Please understand, it is already free from all the limitations of body and mind. Okay? Now, in that awareness, is there any doership? No. In that awareness, there is no doership. And this is what he says. The buddhiman, the wise person, has understood that in that awareness, there is no action. So, what happens? Even though the body is very busy, the mind is very busy, karmani akarma yapashyet. Body is busy, mind is busy, but in awareness, there is no action. Okay. This is what the wise person understands. Okay. And akarmani cha karmayaha. If you have not understood that you are that awareness which does not ever perform any action, then you take yourself to be a doer, and that doer is sitting down or lying down, and you think it is non-action. That, he says, buddhiman, for a buddhiman, that person is acting or not acting? He is acting, because even the sleeping is an action. Okay, or sitting is an action. So what makes the difference?
The decision to do something or not do something, both are actions.
Exactly. Exactly. So what generally people think is an inaction, like sleeping, for wise person, yeah, as long as you take your Atma, self, to be this little individual, you are still choosing to perform that action of sleeping, so that's still an action.
So it's either awareness or involvement.
Exactly. So that means either you know Atma or you don't know Atma. If you know Atma and if you understand that awareness is my nature and awareness never performs any action, then what? In the midst of everything, you can be very busy, okay, and at the same time you are akarta. You are akarta because awareness never performs any action in the first place. That is just knowledge. And if you don't understand this reality about yourself, and if you take yourself to be this little individual who is performing action, then even the non-action, which is what? Sleeping or sitting, is still an action. Because, as Professor Kulkarni says, you use your free will to say, now I'm going to go to sleep. Okay? So the action and inaction is something is quite different for you and me and for a buddhiman Purusha.
But our prarabdha will come in the way.
Okay, now the prarabdha, so this is very, very, so now a wise person understands that the awareness never performs any action. The prarabdha karma will bring the body forward. It will bring. Tomorrow will unfold.
Yeah, but it's my how I mean I'm continuing to get involved or to remain at a state where I know means I'm not performing either ways.
Exactly, and that is the next verse. A couple of verses. While doing, pashyan, while seeing, the person says, na kinchit karomi iti. Okay, the indriyas are engaging in indriyas. Okay, indriya vishayas, but I does not perform any action. This is the vision of a wise person. For everybody else, what? The characteristic of body are taken as mind, the nature of I. The characteristics of the mind are taken as nature of I. There is a doership and there is an enjoyership. This is what makes the person. Okay? So that doership through knowledge, he says, Danani Dagdha Karmani. Okay? Through the fire of knowledge, where you say, hey, I am not a doer in the first place. The whole model of karma is gone for you. Only the prarabdha karma remains. Okay? And the wise person will live one's prarabdha karma, but is never considering oneself as the actor. Now, one little small note that awareness that you are, and this all knowledge and all power, Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, Ishvara, are they two different entities?
They are the same.
Yeah, they are the same. How? What is the relationship?
There is no difference
That is
between
true.
your awareness and somebody else's awareness and the totality.
Excellent.
When you are aware, you are that.
Yeah. So
But
that
the
means,
problem is
yeah.
that your body and mind do not allow you to see that.
Okay, that is perfect. That your body and mind can comprehend. I will tell you why. Okay, so your mind can comprehend this idea. Okay? That is because
I'll just say
Yeah.
one little thing. You know, there are many concepts, for instance, in mathematics, multi-dimensional space. I mean, I can understand many dimensions, but I cannot visualize those dimensions. I can only visualize 3 dimensions. And the 4th dimension is time. I mean, there is height, there is width, and there is length.
see, the minute you say that
But,
you want,
but mathematically, I
can figure it out.
But
See-
ये होता क्या है? What is this 5th dimension? I don't know.
but you know, a lot of your understanding can take place without physically visualizing things differently.
That I
Please
get.
understand. Because, you know, the minute you understand that the sun does not rise in the eastern sky and doesn't set in the western sky, okay, doesn't mean that visually you will not
Yeah.
see the sunrise, right? So that means that is the genius of a human mind. You need not, every comprehension does not follow a change of experience. Please understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
A lot of your comprehension doesn't follow change of experience. Okay? For example, a scientist can very easily understand, in fact the quantum physicist will say this is mostly space and just very tiny particles running around, but still at the same time the person cannot walk across. Right?
Yeah.
But just because he cannot walk across doesn't mean he hasn't understood this reality. Please understand. So if you're looking for a concomitant experience and you equate that knowledge with that change of experience, you're on the wrong track in the first place. In fact, what we need to understand is world is set up in a way that you have this experience. And because we have this experience, we are generally fooled by that experience. But you can use your buddhi to what? Correct that error. Okay? So that is the whole genius of what? This undoing this puzzle of this universe. Without changing the experience, you can figure out.
Sometimes trying
It's
to
like
understand
it's
the
like-
view.
Yeah, Absolutely, you can figure out. Okay, so this is what now coming back to this understanding of all knowledge and all power and awareness, where what is the relationship? Okay. We saw the whole concept of what we call Satyam and Mithya. Okay. How did we define Mithya? Mithya, sorry, you two were not there, okay, is that which depends upon something else for its existence. And what is Satyam? That which exists independently of everything else. Okay. The whole universe we saw is nothing but Mithya. It is forms within forms within forms. And ultimately, where did we resolve it to? All knowledge and all power. Okay. So now we have to do this final understanding of what is the relationship between all knowledge and all power and this awareness. Are they two enjoying the same order of reality? Or is one dependent upon the other? And if one is dependent on the other, which one is dependent upon what? What do you think? The all knowledge and all power, can it exist without awareness? No. Does awareness need all knowledge and all power to exist? Okay. So that means this individuality that I thought I was, now what did I say? This is something which is not I, it is Mithya. What is the Satyam? Awareness. Okay. Now this all knowledge and all power, which makes not only my body what it is, all the bodies and all power and everything what it is, itself also what? Depends upon awareness for its existence. So awareness is the final reality upon which what? The individuality and the totality exist. Okay. So what is the example that we give through which it's very easy to understand this fact? Okay. A wave, ocean and the water. That is a very easy example to understand the relationship between a wave is a small entity like an individual. Okay. Ocean is a much bigger entity which encompasses what? All the different waves. Ishvara. Okay. But if you look into the truth of the wave, what is it? Water. And when you look into the truth of the entire ocean, which is much bigger than any given wave, what is the truth of the ocean? Water. Okay. So where is the equation? The equation is not at the level of forms. The forms are different. We are not trying to equate the forms. Please, if you equate it a wrong place, it will be very confusing. Wave is different from ocean. We are not contending that. Okay? The identity comes at the level of water. Are water many? Water is only one. And water, which is H2O, does it ever intrinsically take on the attributes of oceanness or waveness? No. It's always free from either being a wave or the ocean. That's why you can see it in your tap. Okay. So this is the reality. The reality is that awareness is the final reality. The Buddhiman Manusheshu, the person who is wise person, he sees Atma as awareness, and that the truth of his Atma is truth of everybody's Atma.
Exactly, and that's the
And
connection.
that is a connection. Please understand that, because then how can you go against anyone if you understand this reality? Because my Atma is not different from your Atma.
I mean, it's like one wave and the other wave fighting.
Yeah.
We are both water.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very good example.
Very good example.
Very good.
Because if your identity is confined to waveness as the reality, you will see the other wave as what? Different from you. But imagine now, imagine you shift and you see water now.
But the waves will still.
The waves are forms, right?
And,
the
yeah, and
forms
the forms will be a conflict.
the differences will remain, and the human interactions are such that people do have different
Yeah.
values. But how do you, are these differences absolutely real for you or at a certain level? Once you have that perspective, you have gained perspective.
It's like all of us sitting here in different forms and
Exactly.
intelligence and qualification.
Yes.
But basically, if you see, we are all souls,
Eh.
and the awareness is
Awareness is only one.
one.
Right?
Yeah.
We are not, there
That
are not
doesn't
many
separate.
different awareness. Exactly. There is one undivided awareness.
But I think the difficult
Which-
part is that what she felt when she's went behind. To keep that alive, that is awareness. Because that
Because
goes
we
away.
keep forgetting
We keep
this.
forgetting.
Exactly.
Forgetting.
See,
We keep
coming back.
we are in our waveness.
Exactly. We are so much into our waveness and we don't understand the reality, you know. In fact, the whole language is made in a way, somebody noticed, you know, that this table is nothing but wood, right? But what is our language? Our language is that this is wooden table. When I say it is wooden table, for me what is the noun? Table is the noun and wood is only an adjective. Okay? But if I take out the wood, there is no table here. So I, in my language, give much more
Tabular
reality.
wood.
Yeah, I give much more reality to table than, and in fact I forget about, I think wood is just incidental. So that means the whole language is made
Or our
based on
understanding.
our
yes.
understanding, which is giving more reality to forms than the content. That is exactly what you are saying.
So to take an
हम
example,
अटके हैं
forward,
वहीं. Yeah.
if you are in our terminology, you are in your waterness mode, and the person opposite is waveness mode, and there's some confrontations or conversations which are not going anywhere. How do you deal with that? I mean, you can try and
That was
work on
my,
your
that's
own.
also my question.
Okay.
You can
But-
work on your own water mode, but the person doesn't want to go beyond the wave mode.
Well, I'm still inside my body. If somebody comes to hit me,
Yeah,
I have to move
that
out
is
of
true.
that, no?
No, that is absolute. It is like a
so I may be
scientist.
one with a soul, but not
Yeah,
with
yeah,
a
yeah.
body.
That is true. So that means that as long as you're alive, your body also has an empirical
Yes.
reality, right? The wave has that empirical. We are not saying it's a total illusion, right?
No,
So that
it's not an
means,
illusion.
yeah. So that means that individuality is a reality.
My question is the
And-
same as
Yeah, no. And that individuality, which is a given fact, it's a given perspective, it is not the reality about
Yeah.
me. Okay? Now
Got to
it
go
is,
beyond that.
one second. And this bodies and the minds are all operating within the laws. Okay? So when I interact with different people, okay, I need to what? Keep in mind certain laws. Laws of psychology, laws of dharma, laws of karma. This is something which exists at empirical level. I cannot totally bypass that, even though the final reality is free from all of that. Okay? So that means when I'm transacting with the world, I need to take cognizance of that. Right? So this is where I want to say a nice story which puts the whole thing in perspective. What do we mean when we talk about the vision of oneness? Okay? So I think I told you that story, that there was a king who had two advisors, and one was Advaitin and the other one was Advaitin. Okay? The Advaitin is the person who is talking about oneness, that all that is here is one, undivided whole. And the second one was saying, how can that be? The world is different from you, one individual is different from the other, the cause is different from you, everything is different. Okay? So now the king was fascinated by this Advaitin because it was so different from what he thought. And he was not very interested in the Dvaitin because he says, this I already know. So what's the big learning? I already know I'm different from you. I already think that I'm different from, so why is this philosophy? It's something that I already think that I am, and it's not changing me, not making me any wiser. Okay? So now this Dvaitin became very jealous. And he says, my God, the king is paying so much more attention to this Advaitin who's showing about oneness and is not paying enough attention to me. So there was always this rivalry. Okay? The Advaitin was not bothered. He was just doing his job. But Dvaitin had that whole jealousy. Okay? Then they go and the king went for hunting. And there was this wild elephant which was coming. And the Advaitin spotted the wild elephant and he asked the king to flee. Okay? So they all ran away and they got to a safe place. So now the king was even happier with this Advaitin who pointed out what? That there was an elephant and he saved king's life. Okay? Now Dvaitin was watching the whole show and he says, okay, now I have an opportunity to get back. Right? So he goes to the king and he says that, did you notice what happened? And the king said, yeah, he saved our life. He is so alert, he saw the wild elephant that nobody saw, and now I'm even more grateful to him. Then the Dvaitin said, but there is a basic flaw in this whole thing. He says, what is the flaw? He says, if he really thinks that all that is here is one, then that elephant is also same, right? He is also one, the king is also one, so why would he run away? Okay. Now the king gets very angry. He says, yeah, that's true, that this Advaitin has been fooling me. He's talking about oneness, but he is the first one to spot the elephant, and not only that, he runs away. And not only he himself runs away, he asks everybody else to run away. Okay, so he calls this Advaitin and he says, you have been teaching me this Advaita. He said, yes. And he says that then you saw the elephant. He said, yes. Then he said, you asked us to run away. Yes. But if everything is one, then why should you be afraid? And he says that the elephant is as though, right, we, the human body is mithya. My running, where did I say was satya? It is also mithya, right? Within the whole show, you have to do what needs to be done, because at that given point in time, what is required is that response. He says that is something in mithya. If you understand the whole show is going on, within that there is dharma, there is adharma, there are people who are ethical, people who are not so ethical, everything is going on, then within that you do what needs to be done. But what is your understanding? If mithya is taken to be satyam for you, then there is duality. If mithya is taken as mithya, okay, and that generally, what is the difference between a wise and a non-wise person? For a non-wise person, mithya is taken as satyam.
No, but this
Right.
understanding doesn't help you in taking decisions.
It does, because it
That's
changes
what I want to
the
know.
very major perspective. The major perspective, which is, I am this person who is lacking. See the basic assumptions that we have about ourselves. I'm a mortal. I'm limited. I am insignificant. These are not ordinary conclusions.
Yeah.
And if you correct those conclusions, and if you say, I am that limitless awareness which is manifesting in that which is as though connected to one given body, mind, sense complex, right? And that individuality is true from a given standpoint, but it is not the reality about myself. Then you will do what needs to be done, because the world is arranged through different orders. We are not denying those orders. There you have a discretion between what is right, what is wrong, because those laws are there. We are not denying those laws. Okay? But what is interesting, what the error that you give up forever is that mithya, you don't give satyam to it. Okay? And satyam is something which is not missed by you. And the wise person sees mithya as mithya, and mithya world has its laws, and one has to recognize those laws and act in it.
Or simply can you say that I know that elephant is not real, but elephant doesn't know. So we have to run away.
Yeah, that's true. Or even the physical body is such that it needs to be protected from different forms. Okay, so I just do that part, which is expected. You know, it's not like when you are a wise person and some serial criminal is coming in front of you, and you will just say, oh, now we are all one and I will embrace. We are not. Just like a scientist who understands everything is atom, okay, will not gift his wife for the anniversary a stone instead of gold, right? Because the person, hey, this is atom, that is atom, right? No, that discretion, we are clever.
So you are saying the wild elephant coming towards you is going to kill you, which is the real
Yeah,
truth.
which is
That is not
at
mithya.
empirical level, it is at the
It is at
level
the
of
mithya
mithya,
level.
at the
No, but
level
he is
of
going to
mithya.
kill you, which is the truth, because it is coming towards
Yeah,
you.
so that means that
But
the
it's going
body
to kill only the
goes-
body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that is the thing
Yeah.
to be done at that time.
Exactly. So you do what needs to be done.
Done.
So to answer your question, that when you are transacting with people in this world, everybody is not the same. Please understand that. The minds are different. And somebody's mind is little bit more evolved than the other. And you use your discretion to see what needs to be done in this given situation. But then when you say, my whole self-esteem is dependent upon that, then there is a problem.
That's all.
You see that?
No, a simple example is, maybe you are much more evolved than us,
Yes.
but still you deal with us, and there is no
Absolutely.
conflict.
There is no conflict, right? You understand people, and within that you try to do the best that you can to influence the results in your favor.
No, and
If you cannot,
Ah.
you always have a free will. I mean, see, the thing is, oh, I can't do it, but then you always have a free will to do things differently or look for different options, right? The life does not stop, because if you want to influence everybody and you want everybody to behave in a way you want them to behave, you will never be happy, because nobody behaves exactly as you want them to behave. So that even that attempt is something which is futile, because it leaves you more and more frustrated. So you negotiate, and if it doesn't work, then you use your free will to see what other options are there. You move on proactively. You don't get stuck in an unhealthy situation and what get consumed by it. That is your lucidity. Otherwise, our mind goes in circle, and that circle, right, is something which is not self-enhancing. It is something which creates bitterness, it creates frustration. Against whose interest it is? Tell me. It's against our interest, right? So living intelligently means what? You do what needs to. First, assess the situation accurately. Respond accurately. Don't carry all the burdens that are unnecessary. But use your free will to what? Make proactive actions which are self-enhancing. That is something which is within your purview of influence. Do that, rather than having this futile attempt to change people who you basically cannot change. You can try, but after, as you said, many times, if it doesn't, then what are you going to do? Either you can be frustrated or you can help yourself. These are the options you have. So this is where we see that so much of our energy goes in, right, trying to do things that we can't, right, and not enough energy in changing things and doing things, something proactively to help ourselves. And once you have the whole perspective that this is within empirical level and my whole being is not dependent upon that, but still I want to influence outcome in this, then what are the different ways? You can be very lucid and you can do many things. And this is exactly what Lord Krishna was doing. He was highly engaged. He was constantly making decisions. He was seeing a bigger picture and he was saying, now this is what is required. How was he doing it? It is not like, oh, Atma is uninvolved, so therefore, or everybody is same. He saw very well the difference between Duryodhana and Arjuna. Atma is one, does not, he is teaching, Atma is one, but he was very lucid with reference to different people. And different people required different response. The person was very, very fluid, he was very lucid. Okay? But with reference to reality, you are not confused. What belongs where? This is wisdom. It's a big shift. It's a very significant shift who you think you are. That changes everything. And if this reality is truth about yourself, which is already free and which is already limitless, to live your whole life thinking you are this limited individual makes no sense, because this is self-imposed limitation. And in fact, behind all your pursuits, what are you trying to do? Get rid of this limitation, because you cannot stand this limitation. But you're doing it which way?
Opposite way.
All the opposite way. Trying to manipulate people to suit your trying to manipulate situations because you can be happy. But in fact, it keeps escaping you that this is not the way, right? This is based on an assumption that I am this limited individual, which itself is a wrong starting point. You have to correct that mistake, which is a very fundamental mistake. Because unless you correct that big picture, small things start seeming very big and big things are missed out in your life. The whole perspective is all distorted. Within that you are trying to fix things, and there is no fix. Okay? So Buddhiman Manusheshu puts one's eye in that awareness which is already free. And because it is free, it is actionless, what happens? He can be very engaged, and at the same time there is a lot of freedom. You can be very lucid, you can make decisions to help yourself at that level. But there is inner freedom out of knowledge of what is the reality about yourself. Okay. So with this, we end the class.
This
And the next-
actionless is akarta bhava.
Akarta. It is not bhava, it is based on
Akarta.
reality. See, one thing is, unfortunately, people have made the whole Bhagavad Gita as kind of an advice. You do things but have this whole feeling of you are not the doer. But here we are not talking about that bhava. We are talking about reality of Atma. Atma, awareness, never performs an action. That is something the Buddhiman Manushya knows.
Because it's in akarta, when you are akarta you don't get tired. But when you are in karta, you take on so many things, and because of that there is that feeling of fatigue.
Yeah. So that means that if you have loaded your individuality, yourself with all these notions that you have about yourself, then there is fatigue. But if you have not loaded with it, then you act out of freedom. See, we only think how to act out of this to fulfill the inadequacy. The only way we learn to engage in the world is to what? Fill the lack that we feel.
Absolutely.
Right? We haven't learned to engage in the world out of freedom.
Fixing everything.
Yeah, exactly. I am free and I am still endowed with this given free will, and I can use it to accomplish many things. It's fun. Life is fun. I have so many different options and I can do. I'm not bound by anything. I have choice. I have free will. I can do. And I can do things differently.
the best part is just listening to that is so liberating.
Yeah,
But still we keep,
yeah,
Yeah.
Intending.
yeah.
exactly.
That's why I said Buddhiman Manish.
Sa buddhiman
Trying to be
manusheshu. Absolutely. To
So
free
every
yourself
unhappy man is
from this entanglement. Exactly. Right? Now, the next verses will talk about the lifestyle, and the lifestyle are twofold. One is sannyasa, and the other one is karma yoga, and the option is given, and which one is better is what Lord Krishna is talking about. So we will see.
Do we have next Tuesday?
I will do
That's
the prayer.
question.
Yeah.
Pray.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti